I'm very glad to be here with my friend and colleague, Divya Gupta. We have these wonderful conversations every month. She brings the marketing, I bring the operations. And between the two of us, we look at some of the most important and topical things that are happening right now in business development, in organizational development, and in leadership.
That's correct.
I'm going to pass this back to you, Divya.
Yes. And then look, today's conversation is extremely important. I think a bunch of us, if not everybody that is in the workforce, is living it and is breathing it and has experienced it. I do want to start by addressing that our guest today, Chris, is going to be unable to join us due to some emergency last minute challenges at work, and makes it an exciting reason for us to actually have this conversation because we do pivot. Culture has shifted. And today's conversation is about WFO, which is work from home, or RTO, or hybrid, right? And our culture is where it is today. Our work environment, our work culture is where it is today. So we're not changing it. We're not moving away from it. We have to accept where we are and kind of learn to grow and shift and pivot. So, Jeannie, this is why we are pivoting, and we are because we didn't want to miss out on this important conversation, even if we didn't have our SME, but it is such a realistic conversation and topic that we feel like a lot of us can really add a lot of nuggets to it. So, as we move forward, I also want to encourage anybody that is watching us live and has a question or two about whatever you want to jump in, please jump in, because now it's going to be more of a open conversation about very relating conversations topics, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is one of those things that when it happens in real time, I'm always pleased when we can demonstrate things in real time. This is the context of what it is that we're talking about. Things like change, the unknown, last minute. This is the reality. And this has become very much a reality for many organizations.
Yeah.
And I think we wanted to talk about where it came from. Right, we wanted to talk about pandemic culture for a moment and kind of explain what that is, how we got to this question in the first place.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic started, we had lockdowns and all of that jolly fun stuff. Then it became necessary in order for business to function to have some flexibility, not for any reason other than health and keeping people alive, not putting people at risk. So there was suddenly a very prominent priority to adjusting our operations, to adjusting our leadership, our management skills, to adjusting our expectations of our workers and of what it was that we were going to be able to produce. And that sort of flexibility is the basis, the core of pandemic culture.
So true.
Something that we saw over and over and over was an increase in productivity. We saw people who were giving better ideas. They had more time to focus in and really kind of target what it is that they were trying to get to. We saw some innovation come out of it. We saw a lot of innovation come out of it, actually.
A lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of brand new consultants, a lot of innovation. Yeah.
Absolutely. But we also saw some challenges. That's great for people who work that way, but there are people who don't work that way. They need that social interaction. Our extroverts and our rock stars, right? They need to be able to go in and feed off of that collaborative environment. So it was great for some people, not so much for others. So finding that balance was a challenge, but that dichotomy, that sort of split of this is really good, but it's also really challenging.
Right.
That's our pandemic culture. It's based in flexibility. It's based in end result as opposed to what the journey looks like. It doesn't really matter what it looks like as long as we get the end result.
Well said. Yeah.
So there were a lot of adjustments there. So that's when we talk about pandemic culture in this conversation, that's really the sort of little capsule that we're talking about. It's that little period of time.
100%, Jeannie. And I couldn't have said it better because, there's thankfully, I think when this pandemic culture was kind of brand new-ish to us, right? There was still a conversation of like, things are going to go back to normal. There's no such thing. There is no such thing.
Yeah.
And, I love how you're addressing it as a pandemic culture, because that's what it is. It's really been developed as just that. And so we have to, and there is no more conversation anymore of people asking if it's going to go back. So I'm grateful that people have now, from employers to employees, everybody's kind of accepted the fact that this is just the culture now. And then I do remember, and I'm sure you probably know the same, but a lot of consultants were hired because they were like, oh, there's so much mental wellness challenges happening with people to create this hybrid culture, because even employers were happy with not paying as much. Their utilities are down and all of that good stuff. So they were happy to offer the hybrid culture to their employees, right? And of course, there's like good and bad for everything, like you mentioned. But I think that for the most part, as you know, Europe has been having 4-day work culture forever. And
it's not a new.
It's not new
necessarily. Yeah,
it's really not new. And the impact of that 4-day work culture is mental wellness and work-life balance, and a lot more vacation time and time off from work to family. And so I think that we've seen that. I personally feel like there's a lot of good stuff that has come out of it as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's long been known that the longer you retain an employee, the same way the longer you retain a customer, the cheaper it gets.
Absolutely. Because so true.
Their pay may increase, but their experience, their knowledge, some of those intangibles that happen when you have a long-term employee, and it really can't be denied the impact that has on your culture. Wow, look at John, he's been here for 20 years.
Absolutely. So, yes.
That's
speaks volumes.
An investment. Absolutely.
It speaks volumes. Yeah. Okay. So do we want to jump into like just a few key things that we could probably discuss? And, start talking a little bit more into the detail of the culture. And again, I want to request everybody, if you have thoughts, comments, please go ahead and share them with us, and we will address them here in the Q&A. Well, what would you say, Jeannie, I guess, major shifts between the three, right, that we have? What would we say is the most commonly seen choice by the teams?
It depends on the organization. And because I tend to look at things with an operational eye, with an implementation eye, it breaks down into really kind of a binary for me, in that these are the organizations that are panicking, these are the organizations that are not.
Yeah, so good. So true.
However it looks, whether it looks like complete work from home, or whether it looks like complete hybrid or whatever, it's very much a case of some organizations are running with their hair on fire and trying to figure out what to do, and other organizations are like, oh, we're going to do this. This is just what we're going to do, and here's our logic behind it.
Right.
So it seems that there is really a split between organizations that are confident about this, that feel good about this, that maybe have embraced that pandemic culture, that flexibility a little bit more. And then there are organizations that are extremely concerned their operations are threatened by a distributed workforce.
So true. So true.
So that's really the biggest trend that I've seen, is you're either excited about this or you are freaked out.
That's so true. And I guess, and I would say, like, the difference in the size of the organization would make a big difference as well. Like, it's a small business versus a huge brand, right? For instance, I remember the Marriott Corporation, unfortunately, they had to lay off, about 8,000 employees at their headquarters around the pandemic. But then when they were able to bring a bunch of people back, that was a big shift in the work culture for them, where I would say a good 70 to 80% of the people were supposed to just be hybrid at this point, right? Working from wherever they are. And so I feel like the productivity, we talked about that, the creativity, the efficiency, everything, in my opinion, goes up, because when you are sometimes, again, they're different kinds of people, right? They're different kinds of people. But if I'm working from home today, right? I feel like I work longer when I'm working from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when I'm at the office, we have a lot of chitter chatter. We have, distractions. And then even if, I could be nose down working for 4 hours, but then the fifth hour, I'm like, oh, let me just go out and just see other people for a second. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always a distractions versus like when you're just nose down and working. So there's a good and bad thing, I guess, in both.
Absolutely. That is something that was documented as the pandemic continued, and the longer people were home, was they began to experience some of the work from home challenges that those of us who've been working from home full time for a while have known, which is you have to be able to manage your own structure. You have to be able to set some boundaries so that it hasn't been 6 hours and you haven't eaten. So it's very, very easy to fall into that. There have to be boundaries with leadership, with the job itself. You're not on call 24/7.
So
there's laws and regulations about that. So it really is the sort of thing where that flexibility in how well it's going to work for someone falls very strongly on leadership to make that implementation fly.
So true. So would you say that, especially say if it's a nonprofit culture, because we see that a lot in the nonprofit sector as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, easier for operations to go hybrid or work from home completely when you're nonprofit sector.
We don't need to see people. We just need the spreadsheets.
We just need the spreadsheets. Yeah. And so I think that you're absolutely right. I think the training starts from top and in all aspects. And I think the leadership has to be really put accountable for the changes and walk the talk, walk the talk.
Absolutely. And organization size definitely makes a difference.
Right.
I remember working at IBM, you'd have some people who were able to, have a day occasion back in the day when we called it teleworking. And so
yes, I still call it teleworking. I started laughing. I was like, wait, I still call it. It's not teleworking anymore.
So, it's something that has tried to sort of find its footing for a long time, but that implementation, it's complex.
Yeah.
Not only, who works well this way, but what types of organization, what types of departments and silos work well that way. Operations may work well that way. Tech may work well that way, but marketing may not.
I was just going to say, it's like, there's so many different layers of, accounting would work remote completely, no problem, as long as we have access to them. But you're absolutely right. And, there's still like just different stuff. I mean, your human interaction is important sometimes. And, again, coming from the old school line of us coming from old school time of like everything had to be an in-person meeting. Everything, like, because there's a mentality, and I still deal with a lot of our clients that have that mentality of like, we're meeting in person for everything. And it's just not necessary anymore because I calculate and go, it'll take me an hour to get there for an hour meeting and an hour back when I can be so productive and do my hour meeting and go right back to something else right away,
Absolutely.
So that shift in the culture is there, but it's not 100% there. And I wonder, it could be age related.
Absolutely.
It could be age related, change in mindset.
Very much so. And teleworking is actually a really good example. That's where our brains still kind of live. We're good with work from home and all the other stuff, but there's still a little nugget of teleworking in there. So the younger generations, the younger executives, they don't have that. And so having that ability to sort of be a little more flexible, to explore a bit more and be more open to possibilities, to things that are different because they don't have that old rock stuck in their head.
So true.
I really do believe that the younger generations, and especially the kids who are coming up now, they are the ones who are going to make incredible organizational changes to how things work. And that's why it's important for us in the older generations to really hang out with those kids and really listen to them and connect with them and not be so convinced that our way is Desperate.
100%. And we got nothing but love for all young adults and what I do and what we do. And on that note, like we've been a work from home hybrid company since the very beginning. Mm-hmm. So when the pandemic happened, it didn't impact us in any which way at all. We didn't have to shift our culture. As you know, June's been out of Nairobi since like 3+ years. Dan is UK based. And so, so every single person, it was just like, business as usual. We were already using Teams. We were already using Zooms. And so it's like nothing shifted for us. But there were a lot of companies when all the meetings, like Zoom went down because Zoom didn't know what to do. Yeah. Zoom went down. Zoom was like, you're overburdening me, right? But I wish that people started adapting that. And, you can't wait for a crisis to happen to do crisis management, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be proactive in understanding like what potential crisis can come. And then you and I talk about this all the time, like how are we prepared for anything bigger coming through? So I guess on that note, if there was another shift that could happen or change, or, what would be a great scenario of a work culture, right? What could look good? Like that could create the balance and give everybody what they want, employees and employers. And it's a great win-win,
Well, it's interesting. I went independent in 2008 and have been not only running, but building remote virtual.
That's right.
Since then. And so when this came along, I was in a great spot.
Yeah.
Everyone had these questions and I knew the answers. So it was a really good place to be. And the way that I got there was by paying attention and looking ahead and, doing that risk analysis. When we talk about what is the risk, how likely is it to happen? What are the costs if I'm prepared? What are the costs if I'm not prepared? What are the benefits if I'm prepared? And really going through and doing that analysis, which is what OrgDev does, right? That's our thing is to look ahead and to try to plan for everything, whether it's an economic crash or a zombie apocalypse. You
are really thinking ahead.
When the zombies come, the servers need to be up.
That's right. Anything is possible is the point that we're trying to make here.
Absolutely. And because there was a point when sickness shuts down the world. Don't be silly. That hasn't happened since 1900. Yeah, no, we all think it can't happen, but so you do have to think of this stuff that is a little pie in the sky, that is a little weird, and you're looking more at the outcome. If you think about the zombie apocalypse, what that really means is supply chain loss. It means people can't get to work. It means outside is
change of utilities, like internet going down, or
absolutely. And so you start to kind of think in those logistical ways, because while I don't actually expect the dead to raise, I do think it's fairly possible that we could experience a great many of these things.
I do believe in that too.
I do believe in them, yes.
Because I live in the real world. And I think also because you and I are both coming from a mindset of forecasting and projections and thinking forward, thinking ahead, which again, I tell a lot of our young adults all the time to say, the big difference I see working with young adults versus even business owners that are young adults, we think 10 steps ahead. And so, yes, you want us to focus on just this one thing that's in front. That's fantastic. That's how you think. I'm thinking, I'm thinking, what else does this thing surround? And who else is going to be dotted, connecting, every dot connected in this little circle project that you're giving me? And then what's a 25-mile radius around it? What else is there? And so that's the forward-thinking process that comes with experience, that comes with age, that comes with a whole lot of things that we're not taking it against, but I look at it as cool. Bring it on. Let's guide you. Let's mentor you. Because I love mentoring young adults just because of that. I want our young adults to start thinking ahead and not just be so consumed in like, reaction. oh, we have to do this, let's do this to fix this, right? Because that's like, gotta be proactive, not reactive,
Yeah.
And so that's a skill set I personally feel that just doesn't show up in people's life. I feel like it comes from experience and age.
It does.
Keep doing it. Failure brings you success, kind of as a process. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you said the magic word earlier of the skill that they need, because if you're a young person, you don't have that experience yet. So how do you know? How do you avoid those pitfalls? And the magic answer is forecasting.
That's correct.
So many people, they don't get into forecasting. It seems too complex. There's math.
There's math.
It's like vegetables,
And there's 1 + 1 = 2.
Right. It's raw broccoli. Nobody wants it. And so it really is the sort of thing where you have to get in there, because that is the skill that you're going to need to be able to look ahead and be aware of, well, this is the sort of risk that's happening. This is the sort of risk that I need to be aware of. It teaches you to look at the market forces. It teaches you to look at the external, the non-market forces that are happening. Mm-hmm. One of the big things that really clued me in to the big shift, because I knew a big shift was coming. I did not know it was a pandemic. I thought it was going to be a big economic recession. But what I saw happening was news about people who were not paying their car notes. And it reminded me of news. It reminded me of news that I saw in 2008 and 2009. People were not paying their mortgages, and people were not paying their car notes, remember? And I thought to myself, there's a shift coming.
Interesting.
There's a shift coming.
See, but because you're forecasting, you're projecting, you're paying attention. Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Be able to, and if you weren't there, then you have to look for that historical data.
100%.
And that's 100%. The way that you are able to look forward and say, making a work from home decision or a hybrid decision or an RTO decision, I'm not doing it arbitrarily. I'm not doing it because I feel like, I need to micromanage or I need to not micromanage, I need to just let everyone fly free. That's not why you're making this decision.
Right.
You make this decision.
You're not trying to make everybody happy. It's not about happiness. It's not. No.
It's about productivity.
It is.
It's about balance and retention. And of course, as always, it's the bottom line.
100%. And then, a lot of, going back to the pandemic culture, there was a lot of, like I said, cut down in hours of a full-timer became a part-timer, just the inflation and the gas prices went up. So then the travel with people were constantly downsizing around that time to be like, oh my gosh, we have 3 cars. We're going to go 2 cars. We have gas prices were up. So we don't want to travel back and forth if we can avoid it. Right. New children, new babies, newborns and things like that. And so, I'm happy to see that a lot of corporate culture that also kind of geared towards what the team needed, what the staff needed, what the employee needed, instead of saying, this is my way or the highway. And flexibility, like we talked about, is just the key to bottom line success. And at the end of the day, I don't think there's any company, organization, for-profit and nonprofit, that would be okay if the productivity went down. If productivity went down, because no matter what, businesses are staying afloat. But everything had to be cut down. But it had to be a big shift on all possible ways, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is a mindset shift on behalf of leadership. This to me is one of the greatest opportunities that corporate leadership has to show an evolutionary streak, an innovative streak.
Well said. Yeah.
You can dig your heels in, and this is the way we've always done things, and this is the way that we want to continue to do things. Or you have this opportunity. That this is the beautiful thing about disruption and about chaos, is that when the dust settles, you don't have to go back to the old way.
Exactly.
You can do something entirely different that works better.
Exactly. And then we have to keep in mind that the needs shift, right? Things change, needs shift. And, you have to, as a leader, also be ready to pivot.
Absolutely.
And, like one of the things for us, create like, so for us, we've standard cultures, like you first is a big one for us, in the culture. Because if you have something to do that is so urgent personally, right? Take care of you
Do it.
first.
Do it. Yes.
Take care of you first. But the bottom line is we are sticklers about deadlines. We're sticklers about efficiency. We're sticklers about productivity. And so none of that's get impacted
Mhm.
because everybody that works with us loves their job, right? So, okay, you want to take 3 days off? That's fine because I know no matter what, it'll be whatever needs to be delivered on Monday will be delivered on Monday.
Absolutely.
So that's an important thing, I think, as leaders, as employers, we have to understand the individuals that are working with us.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody needs to take the time to just get to know people because I think that's another big component. People just don't know each other, depending on the size of the company, I guess. And then a generic rule just doesn't work.
It really
So we
doesn't.
have to customize it and offer flexibility and say, oh, okay, you have a newborn or you have a newborn like Shireen had a baby in NICU for 3 months
Mhm.
extra, right? Okay, well, let's create a custom plan for you, right? So I think
Right.
that's important because the care factor just cannot disappear, and from between an employer and an employee, right?
Right. Right. And
Mhm.
for me, it goes back to implementation. And it goes back to costs.
Yeah.
Um, it is cheaper in the long run to work with an employee than to replace an employee,
Agreed.
especially an employee that's been there for a long time.
Right.
And something that I have found to be true over and over through the years is that people are invested in systems that are invested in them.
That's correct. So true.
You know,
Absolutely. Yes.
when you
Yes.
have processes and systems that are set up that feel arbitrary, that feel like roadblocks, that feel like just red tape for the sake of red tape, and this is the way we've always done things, then you have a culture of really shutting out your people
Yeah.
and really making it very clear that what they bring to the table, skill wise, is valuable, but that they, as human commodities, as people, are not.
Not. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is not going to be, that's never been a sustainable workforce, but it's going to be even less of a sustainable workforce going forward. We see the labor market changing. We see cost of labor going up. We see the labor market demanding
Hmm.
more security, demanding better pay, and not being out of line to do
Yeah. I
so.
was going to say, rightfully so.
Absolutely. So
Rightfully
that's why
so.
the
Yeah.
cost effectiveness of keeping people becomes extremely important.
100%. And I also feel that people like teams and staffs and employees have also become a little bit more flexible in expectations, their expectations,
Mhm.
right? So it's like, I mean, we used to, do leadership retreats or team building exercises that required you to be in person and go away and do things like that. Most of that is like shut down now. And so a lot of, and I'm not just seeing that. I mean, if it hasn't shut down, please let us know. But for the most part, I don't see a lot of talking about that. Right.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is that it's really gone down to what's important. Right. So even as an employee, you're looking at, my benefits are important. My 401k is important. Health insurance for my entire family is really important. Right. Okay, so I have to stay focused and productive so I can maintain this, and this. Well, is my gym membership that important going to work and having that access? Probably not, right? Is my retreat that important? Probably not. So what I'm realizing is that the shift in the culture of employers providing more and focusing a lot more, prioritizing a lot more of what's important to the employees
Mhm.
versus the flares and the fluffs, right? It's like I
Always.
feel like the flares and the
Always.
fluffs, they kind of go away, We
Always.
used to do a yoga class for our team. Nah, not needed.
I remember, in the 90s, everywhere had a foosball table.
Oh
And,
yeah,
as you,
and a softball team.
as a softball team, and everybody drank beer at their desk on Friday. And that was just that was the culture. And as we moved on, moved away from that, and I
Oh
saw
my gosh, you bring back memories.
I saw an article recently about how this gamification in workplace was not popular, and the open workspaces were not popular, that people were beginning to get back to a point of, I need some privacy, I need some quiet, I need to be able to focus, and I'm just really not interested in playing foosball with the guy from accounting. So it seems like one of the big shifts that we're seeing at the employee level is a focus on the end result.
Yes.
And less on the internal culture.
Agreed.
And what there seems to be a desire for is, I don't want the yoga class. I don't want the foos table. I want my afternoons free.
Yes, exactly. I want to do what I want to do with my free time. And if I can work, 5 hours during the day at the office and step out and do what I want to do for the next hour or two, and then go pick up my child, I'm good. I can join my family for dinner. And so it's, I'm realizing that that's become a important thing for the employers to provide and employees to want, which is fantastic, because we're finally shifting the culture to work-life balance, which I personally feel like, as a woman that's born and raised in New Delhi, India, our culture is like work. Grind.
There's no balance. It's just
just grind. So it's like the work ethics are different as a result, right? Because we come with the mentality of the grind mentality, like we just gotta really put our best foot forward at all times. But a lot of that stuff is shifted, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. I've changed, which is fantastic. I actually have time now on the weekends.
Absolutely. I spent so many years in corporate with my 70-hour weeks. And to me, that was validation. I felt
absolutely
like I was doing, that's what I needed to do to be able to do a good job. And it's simply not the case.
No.
There was so much that was inefficient, so much, extra busy work, and where I was not necessarily leveraging subject matter experts or tech. I was so convinced that I had to do everything myself, all very stubbornly. So I believe that going forward, one of the biggest challenges that leadership is going to face is that ability to let go.
Yeah.
Really be able to say, I don't need you to show your work. As long as the answer is correct, is the client happy? Is the deadline met? Is the work quality? Did the check clear? If those things are all true, I'm really not concerned with what time you got up this
June,
morning.
are you watching this? Because I told you that exact thing yesterday. June. Yes.
That is a skill. Not
only. It's like, I trust you. Go for it. Yeah. I literally told her that yesterday. I said, I trust you. You do not need to wait for me. Roll, right? Because
the letting go, it's still being able to manage to success.
Yes.
It is a management skill. It's not like you're completely hands off or anything.
Exactly.
It's that your parameters and your communication change.
100%. And exactly. But it also allows it, like, so for instance, like, this was actually related to your brand, but it's like, if you're constantly doing stuff and you're doing a great job at it, at some point the leader has to go, you're great.
What exactly do you have to complain about?
Nothing, right? So you run with it and then come back with, a draft of the end result with me, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. And so, you have to, because that only allows for the team to build the leadership skills, build confidence in what they are producing for you and our clients, and allows them to be more independent in their work. Because when they become confident, the production only goes higher. The production only goes higher. So
that's that investment. That absolutely is that sense of investment of the organization. The way the organization works is not set up, because I said so. It's set up logically.
Exactly.
For the sake of productivity and profit. And organizations that are clearly set up to succeed, to use everyone's skills to move the ship forward, those are missions and visions and orgs that people get invested in.
100%.
A long time.
100%. And then my way and the highway just doesn't work.
It doesn't, because then when they say the highway, you're the one who's stuck, not them.
Exactly, because they're looking at us and going, which direction are you going on the highway?
You can only push so far. There was I'm a big Arsenal fan.
Mm-hmm.
We had a manager at one point, and he worked that was his thing, was fear, was managing through fear. And it got to a point where the players didn't respond to it, because if you keep making a big bellowing noise, well, eventually you get deaf. You stop hearing it, you get blind to it, just you stop paying attention. And so this sort of my way or the highway, this is the way we've always done things, digging the heels in, drawing the line, giving the ultimatums, you can only take that so far before the ears are dead to it. And
100%.
They don't care, and they will walk away, and it will be you who loses the productivity and loses all of the knowledge that they had and their ability to, train other people and bring that down. You'll lose all of that.
All of that. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Well, I want to ask you a question, and then, see, we can add a little bit extra in there for our young professionals. Yeah. Right? Because we speak, I do personally feel like there's a big shift in between the young professionals. There's still a gap, I think. And the way things are perceived, the way things are done, and the culture and all of the above. And so, if we had to make things different, I guess, what would be the best thing for them to adapt to the shifting work culture? And then how does that impact operations?
I would say, to kind of flip the script a little bit, we start with office-based as the default. Let's not start there. Let's start with hybrid as the default.
I like that. That's a good idea. Yeah.
So when you start to think about org dev and business development, don't necessarily start with everyone's in the office. Go ahead and start from the point of some people are in the office and some people are at home. And how does that manage? How does that work? And you can begin to ask yourself, well, what are the real priorities here? Because if you never had the main priority of everyone in the office, then it never makes sense for it to be a priority as long as all of the other metrics are being made.
That'll be kind of like me. I'm like, we don't have everybody in the office. Yeah. 1 or 2 people actually now, but it's like, yeah, it's not even a priority. We don't even bring it up to be like, yeah, that's not even a conversation.
Absolutely. So flip where you're starting from. Great when idea. You think about organizational development. Really lean into your delegation skills. Lean into your delegation skills, and do not be afraid of giving people autonomy, and understand that having the sort of relationship with your team that allows them to have autonomy gives you more control and more influence, and you will get better results out of them than if you try to keep them under your thumb.
Exactly.
If you try to do that, they're going to push back, and then they're just going to lay there and let you push.
And understand you're not the parent. You can't put them under your thumb.
Yeah.
Don't think like that.
That's not your kid.
It's not your child.
Yeah, yes. You can't go that way.
No.
And the third skill that I would really recommend them to look into is AI querying.
Yeah.
Not just machine learning or understanding.
Yeah.
But the specific skill of querying AI, asking those questions to get the type of information that you want. Because when you are working with a shifting culture, and you are working with people who need different types of support, different types of direction, when you are trying to make data-based, results-based decisions and strategies instead of gut-based ones, well, then it makes sense for you to use the research machine and the analysis machine that knows more case studies than you do, that knows more random statistics than you do, and to know how to ask those questions so that the decisions that you make are better informed. So those, I think, are the really the big things, the 3 that I would really start to look for when it comes to the new kids.
I love it. I love it. I think the only thing I would add to that is, like, don't be afraid to ask questions. because that's another big deal, right? I mean, it's okay that like our old school mentality used to be when you're going to interviews, you let the employer be the best person out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. I'm not saying go crazy with the employer in the interview session, but what I'm saying is that don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be
Mm-hmm.
afraid to say, hey, what is your work culture here? What is your preference here? And then don't be afraid to say, this is my preference. This is what makes sense to me, because that's just as important, right? So develop your confidence skills, go get a mentor. I get a lot of young adults ask me to mentor them for that specifically. Hey,
Yes.
we have a job interview coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
da 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 da. How do we make sure this is good, this is bad?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Reach out to even Jeannie and us on DM. We'll be happy to even answer a question or two.
Very
Because
nice.
for us, it's exciting to us to see young adults flourish and thrive and take over. It's exciting
Mm-hmm.
to us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one thing. And I also wanted to say that, if you find your stock, new business owners or small business owners, and I don't know, I don't like numbers. Because again, when we first met you, I used to always say, just because you own a business doesn't make you the best CEO or CFO.
Very
Just
true.
because you have a
Very true.
creative idea to start a business doesn't mean you know operations or marketing or
Marketing or finance
or
or any of
finance or
yeah.
budgeting or any of that. So go get the SMEs. So you get to start right and learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
Like someone like you could be such an asset to a young startup.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
then you are not only are you managing their operations virtually, but you're also there mentoring. So then they get to learn and pick up on a few things. So eventually you are the SME and
Yeah.
then you're running the show. So
Yeah.
that's just as important. I wanted to add that in there. And don't be afraid to ask for help. We're here to help.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there are a great many who it's a passion, it's a mission to pass on this information, to pass on this knowledge and this experience to the next generation of executives and entrepreneurs and business owners. We want you, much in the same way that, when you lose an employee, you lose all that information. But we don't
That's
want to
correct.
lose, we don't want to lose this experience, and we want you to be able to gain the best from it.
Yes.
So whatever it is, you can always ask us questions, as Divya said, about ops, about interviews, about starting your business, about venture, about all of the, how do I do this?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah. And then if it's not us, what I would say is a lot of times people go to their parents,
Mm-hmm.
and because they are the first heroes that we know. But again, just to keep in mind, we as parents don't know everything. And so, it's okay to step outside and get help from the right people
Absolutely.
and really work towards growing yourself. So
Absolutely. Get a big sample size.
get a bigger sample size.
Don't
I've
get
seen
little
that a lot too. Like my mom said this, my grandfather said that, my dad said, my brother, my sister, my friends. And I'm like, okay, well, what about you?
Yeah.
Jeannie, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. And I always get excited about pivoting and adapting, especially with you, because man, we've been there, done that.
I know. And, when it happens the first few times, you panic, but after a bit, it becomes your favorite dance to do, because
Oh my gosh, yeah. We got excited. Are you kidding? You and I were laughing. We're like, yeah, this is going to be fun.
It is what it is. And that's
So sorry that Chris
really,
couldn't join us today, but this turned out to be a very informative conversation regardless. So I'm grateful to have you as our co-host and friend and a client and all of the above.
Absolutely. This is the real world that we live in. This is what it is like. I see no reason to pretend it is otherwise. Otherwise, how are we ever going to adapt and change and do all the things? So thank you so much, Divya. Of course, these are the best conversations that I look forward to so much, my friend and colleague.
Yeah.
And, next month, I think we're going to do something even better.
That's right. So
we're always looking for the next big thing. And,
yeah,
let's ask our people, is there anything that you'd really like us to tackle?
That's
We've
right.
talked about, AI and work from home and leadership and all sorts of stuff recently. Is there something that is relevant to you in business development, either at your work or the business you're trying to start, your consultancy? What would you like us to tackle?
100%. And then also, if you are a C+ executive or you're a decision maker in an industry, then reach out to us as well, because we do want to hear from you. We are always, every month we're trying to bring somebody new, somebody that can be really relevant to our conversation topic. So please, if you want to reach out to us and want to be here, then just message us as well.
Yep.
We'll go from there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. Fantastic, Jeannie. Well, have a great rest of the afternoon and rest of the day and rest of the weekend. Weekday. Today's Monday. You see where I am?
On the weekend.
Oh my goodness.
Good stuff.
Take me backwards, please. Forget forward thinking. All right, Jeannie. Have a great day. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Speak soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.